Good morning, afternoon, evening, everyone. Welcome to our special webinar celebrating International Women's Day in Science. My name is Carolina Haylock-Loor, anesthesiologist, critical care specialist, and interventional pain physician based in Honduras, currently president-elect of the WFSA, and today, on behalf of the World Federation of Societies of Anesthesiologists, WFSA, and the DEI Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee chaired by Dr. Fawzia Khan, we gather in this year of the 70th anniversary of the WFSA to honor and recognize the extraordinary contribution of women in the scientific community, especially to the anesthesia field, whose relentless pursuit of knowledge and innovation has shaped our world in remarkable ways. It is an absolute pleasure to have you all here with us today. Before we begin, we want to make a moment to remember our dearest friend, Dr. Janik Melling Olsen. We are really shocked, of course, by this sad news. She passed away recently. Our beloved Janik, past president of the WFSA. She was a vibrant force and a dedicated leader whose hard work and passion greatly enriched our lives, enriched WFSA, the DEI Committee, and the anesthesia family. Her legacy of service and commitment to advancing our field will continue to inspire us all. Thank you, dear friend. Thank you, Janik, for being an inspiration to all of us. It is an absolute pleasure to have you all here, as I said. Today, we celebrate not only the achievements of women in science, but also the incredible life and contribution of Janik. I have the privilege to co-moderate this session with Professor Patricia Yazbeck from Lebanon. Patricia, hand over to you.
Thank you, Carolina. Hello, everyone. I'm Patricia Yazbeck from Lebanon. I'm a professor in anesthesiology and critical care at the St. Joseph University Teaching Hospital in Beirut, Lebanon. I am a WFSA council member and the regional representative of the Middle East and North African region, and also a member of the WFSA DEI Committee. The history of women in science is rich and inspiring, as was Janik's life, which was filled with boundless energy and enthusiasm that she shared with all of us. May her soul rest in peace, and we forward our deepest condolences to her family. This webinar aims to celebrate the achievements of women in anesthesiology, to highlight the challenges they still face and discuss strategies for fostering a more inclusive and equitable scientific community, therefore inspiring change for the next generation and for women to lead the future of anesthesia and science. We have a distinguished lineup of speakers who will share their experiences, insight, and visions for the future of women in anesthesia and science. Carolina, would you like to share the agenda and
Thank you, Patricia. Yes, this is the agenda that we will follow today. And as you see, we have a fantastic list of speakers. May you present also our housekeeping, please?
Can I have the slide? Okay, so just remember that the Q&A will be submitted via the Zoom function, Q&A function. There will be a translation but you have to select your preferred language in the settings. Certificates will be given of participation will be issued 7 business days of the webinar. And there is a webinar recording that will be published on YouTube. Thank you. So it is my pleasure to introduce now our first panelist, Dr. Bisola Onajin Obembe from Nigeria. Dr. Bisola is the founder CEO of Global Anesthesia Initiative, Texas, USA. She is a consultant anesthesiologist at the University of Port Harcourt Teaching Hospital in Nigeria, the immediate past president of the J4 Alliance. She is a former WFSA board member and past president of the African Regional Section, past president of the Nigerian Society of Anesthetists, foundational implementation committee member for the Federal Ministry of Health Policy on ENSO in Nigeria. And she has many research interests, especially in anesthesia workforce development and leadership. Her lecture will be on leadership and attracting trainees. And I remind you also that Q&A will be at the end of all the lectures. Dr. Obembe, the floor is yours. Bisola?
You're muted.
Yeah, thank you, Patricia and Carolina. It's a great pleasure to be on this webinar with amazing speakers. And I'm just going to kick this off with giving you something that we can reflect on, which is leadership and attracting trainees. I'm going to introduce leadership and focus more on John Maxwell's 5 levels of leadership, which is something that we can apply and think about. Then I'll talk on strategies for gaining experience in leadership, attracting trainees, and I'll turn this over to the next speaker. Leadership in anesthesia can be in any area. It could be teaching and training. Most of us are teachers as well, and coaches in anesthesia with the different fields that are opening up to us. Service is one thing that we provide, anesthesia service. It could be leadership in research. It could be leadership in professional societies, like our national societies, the World Federation, WFSA. It could be higher education and management. So leadership, we can lead in different ways depending on your interest. I would say that leadership is an attitude and a mindset. And it is important that we start leading where we are, not to look for a place, or create something, but wherever we are, we can start leading there. And leadership is an opportunity. Wherever we are provides the opportunity for us to lead. One thing that comes up when we're looking at leadership is influence, inspire, providing vision and direction for that unit, that team, or that organization, or that society. It also includes empowering and developing people. And a lot of other C's like cognizance, cultural awareness, cultural intelligence, courage, curiosity. You can't lead if you're not a curious person. And commitment, we can't do without commitment and collaboration. So here is an example. The DEI is an example of collaboration. And I would like to quote Professor Emerita Brenda Allen, who said, inclusive leadership is a process of social influence that strive to value and respect everyone involved in achieving a goal. So there's that thing that we want to do as leaders. We can't lead without valuing our members or our team. I'd like to drill down on the 5 levels of leadership according to John C. Maxwell. We all know that there's so many ways you can talk about leadership, the traits, or the different types of leadership, like situational leadership, servant leadership, and all the rest of it. But then one thing that is common is the levels of leadership, level 1 to 5. And level 1 is the position that you are given. At this level, people follow you because they have to. You're given that position. The position can be given to anybody, not that you merit it, but it's a privilege. At that position, you don't want to stay at level 1, where people follow you because they have to, and it's your right, maybe as a head of department or head of unit or something, you think is your right, and probably people want to follow you because they are scared that they may get sacked or, anything, because of the fear they have for maintaining their own position. But we don't want to stay on level 1 forever. We want to build on it. It's not that position that makes a leader, but it's the leader that makes the position. And you want to move from level 1 to level 2, where you now have the permission of the people. And that permission is based on relationships, the relationships that we build in that level 2. And people follow you as a leader because they now want to follow you as the leader. Again, leadership, you have to get better. And level 3 is production. Production level, where you begin to you produce results in your society, results in your organization. We see the things you're doing, and people follow you because of this. And level 4 is the people development. You want to develop your people, and level 5 is the pinnacle. So this level, really, level 4, I'll talk about level 4, people development in level 4, is really important when we come to capacity building or trainees, building your team, building your trainees, and developing a new department. Level 4 leaders are impactful. They are attracted to you for the impactful contributions that they make. At this level, you become a transformative leader, and people become loyal to you because they see you can empower them through recruitment, positioning, equipping. And this is where you compound the workforce. Initially, maybe you are the only one, and at the reproduction level, you've been able to create some program. But then when you begin to develop people, you have this multiplication and compounding effect, and then you begin to solve problems. Now, level 5 speaks for itself, and that is the highest level. At that level, you've done everything so well, so very well, over and over again, and you don't need an introduction. This is the level where you have respect, and people follow you at this level because you have done very well, and they respect you, they appreciate you. And here I just put a picture of our friend, Dr. Yannike Melson-Olsen, who has served the WFSA and has reached this level of leadership. Now, what are the strategies for gaining leadership experience? It all begins with service. You can't escape serving. And my example, my experience, I didn't wake up to say, hey, I'm going to be a leader. I found that a position was offered to me. I knew nothing about serving in a society, but it was an opportunity to serve. And so as the public relations officer, that was a position. People followed me because they have to. But then I made the PRO position work for me, organizing, making sure I'm the face of my society. And that led me to level 2, where people followed me, not because they have to, but because they now want to, getting me to be the secretary, general secretary of the NSA. And this went on to be vice president and president, and leading into my journey with the WFSA. And so leadership really is a journey that you keep growing and you develop. What are the things that you need? Your environment, equipping and exposure. Sometimes you want to be a leader, but you don't want to be exposed. So we need the right environment. Get into the right environment that works for you, whatever it is. It could be research, and follow the great researchers, great leaders. Get involved in equipping. Let them equip you and you equip others. So get into that environment where you will be exposed. And please take positions. Don't be timid. Learn on the job. True leadership produces leaders. And as a leader, you want other people to come with you. And one thing that I like saying, which I learned from Matthew Ashimolowo, a pastor, he said, association leads to assimilation. It's the people you associate yourself with that will make you assimilate at that level. And assimilation leads to revelation. It's what you know and what you assimilate that makes you get to that point, aha, the revelation. And it's that revelation that leads to your elevation in the leadership journey. So for me, being in the Nigerian society allowed me to get into the World Federation of Societies of Anesthesiologists. And that enabled me to also get into the Lancet Commission. And at that point, it was Dr. David Wilkinson that said, hey, Bisola, go for this meeting. And the Lancet Commission for Global Surgery was my stepping stone into the G4 Alliance. So you can see that it's really a journey. And what was revealed to me, what I learned there, and what I understood there was what I used when I got onto the NSOAP Implementation Committee. And you will see that in these areas, I was able to we produced the NSOAP. And that was my journey. Now, that exposure, that experience also got me involved with other members of the African regional section of the WFSA. I just showed this to show you a picture that we took in 2004 before the World Congress. 2004, this picture was taken in Paris. So stay on track, whatever it is that we are doing. And the G4 Alliance, this is the G4 Alliance we took in 2024 last year. So leadership is a journey. You start with being a local leader, and then it takes you through to be a global transformation leader. I'm not going to talk much about this, but this slide just shows that you need cultural awareness, you need to adapt, you need to relate to people, you know, and getting on to attracting trainees will be easier once you develop yourself as a leader. I would like to point out this work that we did. Surely we know that we need people and we need trainees. And sometimes when you stay and say, when they get to medical school, I'm going to train them, you are too late. So start with a high school not even high school, start with nursery. I used to joke about toys, you know, making toys for children, a toy anesthetic machine, a toy operating room, you know, a toy anesthesiologist, just like the Barbie dolls, so that they can be aware of the space that we work in. Start at that level and work with other stakeholders to ensure that we introduce children at the nursery level, at the primary school level, young children, to that space that we work in so that they can say anesthesiologist or anesthesia. And then in high school, our career talks, medical school, let them know you, encourage them, let them shadow you. And so that by the time you're looking for trainees, you already have a lot of people who are in that pipeline. In 2021, the final year medical students approached me and they had read something in the University of Port Harcourt magazine, and they wanted that I was going to speak at a World Congress, and they wanted to be part of it. So that year we had 12 final year medical students follow me, and fortunately it was the first virtual meeting, and they were able to attend this meeting, and that was a seed for them. Now, another thing we can do with our trainees, let's enhance technology and bust boundaries. I really don't have to be physically somewhere. Now we're talking and we have a lot of people online talking to us. We can bust boundaries and we can leverage technology so that I will be in Nigeria, but I will have access to your theater in Honduras. I would have access to your theater in Lebanon through an enhanced virtual space. And you can show me the things so that I can stay with you maybe 8 hours during the day in your theater, and that will help us to train and to expand. And then we can leverage our small programs, a 1-year program, and catch them. It's like fishing. You don't really have to do all the anesthesia programs. Just do a diploma in anesthesia for 12 months. If you like it, stay with us. If you don't like it, go do an MPH or do something else or ONG, whatever, but come. How wonderful it is if all medical graduates do 12 months diploma in anesthesia. Nothing bad with that. And so, how do we keep our trainees, especially the ladies? Jamila Salisu is my model. She started with anesthesia, and because she wanted to raise her family, she left anesthesia. You can see all the hurdles in front of the women, you know, in their journey, whatever it is that you want to do, research, organization, or management, we have hurdles. And so the next speaker will address mentorship. I have a favorite name and call it Femtorship, Femtor, female leaders, mentoring female. But our next speaker will go on and flesh it out. So I want to say thank you very much for listening. There are a lot of resources that we can refer to. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bisola. It has been an amazing lecture. Thank you very much for being such a good friend and a role model to all of us. Now, it is my honor to introduce our second panelist, Professor Vojislava Neskovic. She works at the Military Medical Academy in Belgrade, Serbia, as a staff anesthetist and associate professor in anesthesia and intensive care and a medical faculty of the Military Medical Academy. She has been a faculty member and program coordinator of the WFSA International School for Instructors in Anesthesia since 2006, and in the European Society of Anesthesia and Intensive Care, she teaches the teacher's masterclass since 2012 and is one of the author of the European Training Requirements for Anesthesiology, UEMS. She is past chair of the ESAIC Gender Equity Committee and past president of the Serbian Association of Anesthesiologists and Intensivists. Her lecture, Mentoring the Next Generation of Anesthesiologists. Now, Professor Neskovic, hand over to you.
Hello from Belgrade. It's a great honor to be this afternoon with us. And of course, my topic will be mentoring the next generation of anesthesiologists. But before we start, there will be 2 questions for the polls, just to see what are some experiences of our audience about mentorship and their mentors. I don't know if we can get those questions. Okay, so the first question is if you had a formally established and useful mentoring relationship during your career. The answer is yes or no. And the other question is, do you think that you could benefit from a mentor at any stage of your career, including your current position? Yes, no, or I'm not sure. So please take your time and vote before we start with our presentation. I don't know if we are moving, if something is happening. Okay, so half and half. And yes, of course, we all need mentors. Okay, so let's just move to our presentation now and see how your answers fit in what I have to say. And the main objective of this topic will be to describe mentoring schemes that actually exist in different professional environments currently, and how mentees can benefit from them. And the other objective will be to discuss how mentoring may reinforce or mitigate inequities, and we will focus on gender inequities in academic medicine. And mentor originates from ancient Greek stories about the Odysseus who left for King of Ithaca, who left for the Trojan War, and he appoints mentor to take charge of his household, and particularly to teach and take care of his son Telemachus. This story is more complicated, but the point is that out of it comes our representation, what we see as a mentor. And that's usually somebody who is more senior and who is experienced and who is trusted advisor and who can lead more junior person towards their full potential. But we may say that nowadays we have a little bit of changing that paradigm. Maybe this seniority of mentor and being somebody less experienced as a mentee is still in academic mentoring, in academic environment. However, now we broaden a little bit this definition, thinking that mentor actually cares to help mentee to take charge of their own development and to keep better in helping themselves. Actually, to find that mentee is supposed to find the courage and to find strength to fulfill their objectives and to achieve goals in their professional life. And we talked nowadays more towards learning relationship. And to achieve that learning relationship means that it's a really interconnection between mentor and mentee. And for that, seniority is not in the focus of a mentor, but training and skills of the mentor that can lead to effective mentoring. And a trained mentor can actually move towards problem solving, towards problem management, and can have a different roles in a life of a mentee, as a friend, as a supporter, as an advisor, facilitator, networker, or coach, and teacher, whatever. And to have a successful mentoring scheme, it means that you have to have a trained mentor, an informed mentee, and voluntary agreement to achieve this learning relationship between those two. And because the successful mentoring can happen only if mentor and mentee actually share similar values and interests. And so for mentors, it's important then to have different competencies, like competence of active listening and conversation skills, in order to arrange actually a psychologically safe space and to offer a framework for a mentee that they can actually define, recognize, and then deal with the problem that is upon them in their professional career. And that means very often it is offered something like these Adgan skilled helper model, that the point is that mentor has to offer a framework where the mentee recognizes what's going on, what's the problem, and then discusses about all the possibilities that are in front and that are on the table, and then chooses what is their objective and solution for their own. So in a way, it is helping mentee to come to actions that are leading to outcomes that are actually recognized and that the mentee feels most comfortable about. So in those terms, we see that a mentor can that paradigm around the mentor and mentorship is changing, and we also have that at the different stages of mentee's career, let's say. So also when very junior doctors during their let's say residency programs, they usually look upon the teacher, and we can also see that the roles of the teachers are changing nowadays. So we also have a teacher that is supposed to be a mentor, facilitator, learning facilitator, but also role model and a networker and helper. So it's a little bit in helping and leading, and not just leading, but helping actually mentee to choose their own career paths and to achieve, of course, their goals. And aside from just being junior, it is now a need that we have a career-long mentorship, that it is advised, for example, from General Medical Council in UK, that every doctor that should seek for a structured support in every part of their professional life when their role is changing through their career, meaning that at any change, any stage of their professional life, somebody can benefit from a mentoring. And we usually put that in the context of overcoming some contextual barriers, like taking position of leadership or academic medicine. But it actually can be a lot of different ways, since our professional life is becoming more and more complex, and there is a diversity of different paths that we may choose, and that can be the most acceptable for our private and professional life. Also, talking about mentorship, we also have, and this relationship that is building, it should be also keep in mind that there can be also different ethical issues. And one of those is actually power that establishes between mentor and mentee. And that can be also helpful, but also can be an obstacle in successful mentorship. And we can see how can that be actually a challenge with the developing mentorship relationship. So the point is why we should use mentor, and it is we can see now that from the Association of Anesthetists in UK, because they have this very nicely developed mentorship program, there are different questions and positions in life where mentoring may be helpful, from the influencing and building the team to dealing with, let's say, like a difficult situation, or choosing career paths, or working with challenging colleague. So many different questions can be, or objectives can be placed on the table where some mentor can be helpful. And the problem is, of course, that there is a limited pool of skilled mentors. And luckily, nowadays, we have a different technical tools and opportunities. So mentor is not necessarily any more close to us. It does not have to be somebody that we are changing the same hospital or the same university or same geographical destination or location. And now there is a bidirectional process. Usually we were thinking only about mentee and what mentee can gain, but now we are also talking about mentors, and mentors also through being involved in mentorship learning relationship can actually increase their recognition. They can also develop their leadership positions and skills and coaching skills. They can also have their own career advancement. But mentee, it is well known that beneficials come from successful mentorship and relationship between mentor and mentorship for a mentee. And that can be a job satisfaction and feeling empowered and actually more confident in what they do and in career development. But the important thing is that it is well known that people that that are involved in successful mentorship relationship actually tend to be more involved in leadership and more involved in academic career, and to be interested in networking opportunities and towards more like research and other academic activities that can be challenged nowadays, and particularly in anesthesia and critical care, but in anesthesiology particular, because it is known that there is a decline in academic anesthesiology for some years now, and that it still stays strong because there are a lot of challenges for people in anesthesia, not only to choose anesthesia, but then to choose academic path in anesthesia because of long training pathways, salaries, protected time, stress, well-being, and research, let's say like leadership and support. And if we focus on mentoring and sponsorship, we can actually improve these, let's say, declining trend in research in anesthesia. And recently, one survey has been published from the European Society of Anesthesia and Intensive Care. It's about attitudes and barriers for career advancement between men and women. And it was spotted that both men and women aspire to a leadership in career. It's not that just men want to be leaders and women don't like to be leaders. That's another misconception. And they usually have the same barriers, but it seems that those barriers affect women more. And there are some very specific, like childbearing. But if we see a little bit closer to an answers, we can see here that, for example, some of the obstacles are almost the same, like partner's career consideration affects both men and women. And because we have this younger generation that very much value work-life balance, we see that both men and women tend to think twice before going into leadership or academic positions because of, lose of their free or family time. But what is specific for women is actually that women miss more women role models. They actually have less self-confidence. They have a less research background, and they actually have a lack of leadership education. And they're actually, let's say, less encouraged to take a leadership steps. So those parts are actually very important that can be solved with successful mentoring. So we see now that as a leaky pipeline, which is obviously well known also in anesthesia and in medicine altogether, is that there is a lack of women in research and in academic position. There is, as you may see here, lack of women in everything, in publishing, in clinical guidelines, in peer reviews, in speakers. And what is well known is are also barriers. And childbearing seems to be the most important and most difficult obstacle to let's say to conquer. But there is another issue, and that is that solutions come again back to mentorship, and that it is sort of advisable to have women mentors and role models that can actually, let's say, like encourage women and to solve these problems problem of diversity and lack of representation of women. And quite recently, there was one qualitative study published from US universities. We'll see how that will change nowadays with all this political situation and denying diversity and equity and inclusion. But both men and women mentors were actually surveyed, let's say included in inquiry regarding the learning about gender inequities, helping women navigate them, balancing work and family balance, and sexual harassment. And what was noticed is that both men and women mentors learn about, let's say, these inequities and gender inequities within the academic environment. And both men and women and men understand that women need to have actually have a more difficult path. But it is interesting that actually they are not helping them in addressing systemic barriers, but actually trying to help them to find their own ways how to go through the obstacles. Then also, we always assume that women actually know everything about gender inequities, but usually they are very much aware of their own experiences, but there are lack of knowledge of systemic disadvantage. And through these mentoring relationship, they can also learn more. And the other thing is harassment. That is also the one thing about the power that I mentioned before, because usually harassment may happen in this mentorship relationship, and usually only only women get harassed. So it is not enough that you have a senior person that is there to mentor somebody. We obviously need ethical issues and skilled mentors. And just to come to an end, to a summary, we now know that mentoring is a learning relationship that can benefit both for mentors and mentee. And we can help address lack of women in leadership and improve diversity through in academic anesthesiology through mentorship. And there are very limited data about the current state in different countries, in different environments, about the mentoring schemes. And we could probably place more focus on that in our research. And of course, I just all encourage you to visit the page and to visit and inform yourself about the Global Anesthesia Mentoring Program, which has been established by WFSA. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Professor Neskovic. It is now again my privilege to introduce our third and last panelist, Professor Maria Aouad. Dr. Aouad is a professor of clinical anesthesiology at the American University of Beirut and the chairperson of the Department of Anesthesiology and Pain Medicine at AUB, American University of Beirut. Professor Aouad received her MD degree from St. Joseph University Faculty of Medicine in Beirut, and then completed her residency in anesthesiology and critical care at Université Claude Bernard Teaching Hospital in Lyon, France, and at the American University of Beirut. She is certified in anesthesiology and critical care from the Arab Board of Health Specializations, and holds a certification in perioperative TEE from the National Board of Echocardiography in the USA. Professor Aouad's area of clinical expertise include pediatric and especially pediatric cardiac anesthesiology. Throughout her career, Dr. Aouad obtained credential in research and leadership, and she had led the efforts towards obtaining a HCGME1 accreditation of the anesthesiology residency training program at AUBMC starting 2016. Professor Aouad is a member of the Arab Board of Medical Specialization in Anesthesiology and a member of the Pediatric Anesthesia Committee of the WFSA. She will deliver a lecture on women in anesthesia in the Arab world. Professor Aouad, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Patricia, for this kind introduction. It's my pleasure to talk about a topic that is really dear to my heart, which is women in anesthesiology, with a special focus to the Arab world. I have no disclosures, And we'll start with some contextual background, then briefly explore women in anesthesiology across various regions, including North America, Europe, and particularly in the Arab world, narrowing down to Lebanon. And we'll also discuss some strategies that can be implemented to help advance the careers of women in this field. So back to the 19th century, Rupa Bai Furdonji, a pioneer in anesthesia, features on the WFSA website, broke into a male-dominated profession and set the stage for future generations. Over the years, the list of these amazing women became longer as we view these pictures, also from the WFSA website, showcasing women who have contributed immensely to the specialty of anesthesiology. We salute all women anesthesiologists for their remarkable achievements and continued impact on the specialty. One particular woman is on our mind today. We salute the memory of Yannick. Her vibrant life and career was truly inspirational. Despite these success stories, we often hear about gender disparities in various professions. But what about our field? Do women in anesthesia face unseen barriers that we call the glass ceiling, barriers to leadership and advancement? I'll be sharing with you some data from the American University of Beirut that show that the gender gap is now closed at the level of the medical school with equal representation of males and females. It is also closed at the level of residency at our institution, at least. And it is closed at the level of the new faculty recruits. However, if we look closer, we see that this gap widens again when you look at the higher academic ranks with much more professors that are male than females. So in the field of anesthesiology in particular, the glass ceiling manifests through limited representation in leadership roles, wage disparities, and underrepresentation in academic and research positions. So is this glass ceiling real, or it is just a perception that is shaped by broader societal and cultural influences? This systematic review on the gender gap in academic anesthesiology and critical care, published in 2024, concluded that although women make up approximately 70% of the medical education cohorts in Western contexts, this majority does not translate proportionally into leadership positions, with substantial gaps in scholarly publishing, leadership roles, and academic recognition. Gender disparities are evident in academic leadership positions within anesthesiology, with really few women serving as editors-in-chief and limited representation among editorial boards in top journals. We have also similar gaps observed in departmental and scientific society leadership roles, with much fewer female anesthesiologists occupying these positions. Similarly, we have persistent gender imbalances evident in academic recognition, with distribution of awards, prizes, and grants remaining extremely skewed toward men. While these findings could suggest that women are less eager than men in assuming leadership positions. However, I think that this was shared by the previous speaker. This large survey by Matot refuted this theory because despite the many barriers, this study noted that women are as eager as men in assuming leadership positions, and they really, despite all the barriers, eager to assume these positions. And this again was also shared by the previous speaker. The barriers that they are listed really are important and revolve around more workload, time spent at work, lack of leadership education in medical school and residency programs, and also lack of part-time opportunities with many other barriers. Another survey published in the British Journal of Anesthesiology in 2021, which was an international assessment of the prevailing attitude of over and implicit gender bias within anesthesiology around the world. This survey concluded that women were more likely to perceive that they are mistreated at the workplace and that they are at a disadvantage in research and leadership. While certain trends suggest improvement in the workplace, however, barriers to promotion to key leadership and research positions continue to exist. What is interesting about this study is that it is an unprecedented large-scale survey based on more than 11,000 respondents, representing 148 countries. And this survey confirmed that women perceive their gender as a disadvantage when competing for leadership positions. So they confirmed the findings that there is a paucity of mentorship programs for women, there is gender discrimination in the workplace, there is a lack of role models, and there is a heavy burden of family duties. What is even more interesting and somehow surprising is that they found that lower income countries were associated with a significantly smaller gender gap, which is a little bit counterintuitive, as one might think that a larger gender disparity in such setting should exist due to societal, economic, and institutional factors. And this will lead us to Lebanon, which serves as an example of a lower income country where women are very well represented in the field of anesthesiology. In our country, anesthesiology is really extremely attractive to women, not only as active members of the workforce, but also in our country, women hold high academic positions and exceed really men in holding these positions. We speculated that because of the long-standing and strong leadership representation of women in the field of anesthesiology in Lebanon, and which has been historically the case, this made visible role models that inspired the younger generations, increasing the participation of women in the workforce, providing meaningful mentorship and support, although this mentorship might not be a structured and an official mentorship, but it is somehow mentorship and support to the younger generation. As a result, anesthesiology is one of the preferred specialties of female physicians in my country. So this paper that we wrote, entitled Women in Anesthesiology, Is It Different in the Arab World?, concluded through a pilot survey targeting active members of the anesthesiology societies in the MENA region that the barriers are similar like everywhere else. And most of the barriers basically revolves around difficulties in managing family commitments and childcare responsibilities, difficulties in finding balance between work and families, similar to the surveys that were conducted in Europe and in North America, along with other barriers such as gender stereotypes and lower salaries, lack of self-confidence, etc. There is a scarcity of papers about this topic in the Arab countries. And what is available shows that similar to other countries, the gender gap has been closed only at the level of medical school graduates with low representation in academic promotions and leadership positions, mainly in Egypt and Jordan. And this contrasts with Lebanon and Kuwait, where the academic promotions and leadership positions are mainly occupied by female anesthesiologists. So we'll finish with some strategies for breaking this glass ceiling. From our survey, the top-ranked facilitators perceived as facilitators for female anesthesiologist career advancement are childcare facilities in the workplace, the possibility of having part-time job opportunities, extended maternity leaves, and having smooth transition after maternity leave. And other publications, the actionable solutions revolved around mentorship, improving the workplace culture, life balance, and compensation. Initiatives such as this one, like Women in Anesthesiology, are also useful because they support the recruitment, retention, and job satisfaction of women in anesthesiology, and creating organizations such as this one promote a culture of inclusivity and diversity. So despite the challenges, many women have risen to positions of leadership in anesthesia. These success stories offer hope and provide valuable lessons on how to overcome systematic barriers and serve as evidence that women can and do succeed in leadership roles. And I will finish for this call for action. Change starts with each one of us, males and females. I don't think that only females should advocate for females, but we should also have allies among our male partners and our male co-workers. Advocacy, mentorship, and the commitment to equity are essential for breaking down the barriers that perpetuate the glass ceiling. Thank you for listening. We'll be ready to answer questions.
Thank you, Professor Aouad. Thanks to all our panelists for sharing with us. Now we start the Q&A session. And the first question goes to Dr. Bisola. I'll join two questions. One is from Dr. Ignacio Varela from Mexico, asking, is anesthesiology a specialty for a woman, for and of women? And how do you combine such illustrious careers with our roles as mothers, housemakers, and often carers for aging parents? Please, Dr. Bisola. Do you want me to,
Sorry.
do you want me to repeat the question, or it's okay?
Repeat that again.
Okay, so is anesthesiology a specialty for and of women? And how do you combine such illustrious careers with our roles as mothers, housemakers, and often carers of aging parents?
Yes, great question. Anesthesiologist is not a career for women alone. In Nigeria, when in the 70s, 80s, and early 90s, we had a lot of men leave anesthesia for greener pastures, and we had the women stay back home to nurture the career and grow the workforce. So we had women, we were top heavy with the women. which shows that anesthesia really is not a career for men alone. However, now we have more men in anesthesia. Over 75% of men, of anesthesiologists are men right now as I speak. We have more men. And the women probably were not getting into residency program, or they are leaving because of one thing or the other. So we need to be aware of that and consciously, intentionally encourage women to stay and give them the support. Now, for me as a woman, I'm married. I now have, my sons are adults between the age of 34 and 27, 3 sons. And I had to care for my parents as well, aging. But one thing I did that helped me was I didn't do everything at the same time. I was happy to take leave of absence. If I want to do anything and I know that it's going to be affected, I know it's not the way out for everybody, but then I'm able to take time off work and focus on whatever it is I need to do. For example, while we were preparing to host the All Africa Anesthesia Congress in Abuja, Nigeria, as the president of the African Regional Section, I knew I had to meet with the ministers of health, I had to travel, I had to do stuff, a lot of things. I couldn't do this with my regular work. I decided to take a leave of absence. That was what worked for me. And while I was G4 president, I also took a leave of absence. That is because, you know, it depends on who you're working for and the kind of society that you have. If it's a society that supports women, it may be possible for you to juggle everything together. We are a young anesthesiology society. You can't compare us with Australia that is celebrating, you know, is it 100 years or 90 years? So many years as, you know, in anesthesia. So we're growing. And I think women should find their rhythm, you know. Find your rhythm. If you want to do family, you want to do aging parents, you want to do career, find your rhythm. There's no right or wrong way. You know yourself, you know what you can do. Find your rhythm and let it work for you. I hope I've been able to answer that question.
Thanks, Bisola. Patricia?
Yes, my question now is for Vojka. I would like to know, just saying that all of us, or many of us, have been doing some informal mentoring all over these years in our departments. So what about the outcomes? What's the difference? Do we have something, do we have tangible differences between traditional informal mentoring and a formal, more formal and regular mentoring or organized mentoring?
Well, it's difficult to say. I think that there is a lack of strong evidence that there are evidence saying that this kind of these mentorship programs that are very well, let's say, structured and that they come out with a result. But even in those very good structured programs, if you see data, there can still be a good number of mentees that never manage to build a relationship with their mentors. So I think that we really need to address a little bit better outcomes, as you said. I would like just to point out that everything changes, and with newer generations, their expectations are different. And because of that, these talk about changing the roles of mentors also have to take place. because it's not just like having somebody who is just a senior and a role model and somebody that you can look up to that brings automatically a successful mentorship relationship. So I think it will change even more. We are, of course, trying to do our best, and I'm sure that each one of us have some examples of successful, informal, formal, or whatever kind experience of mentorship. But it would be good that ideally it would be some unrealistic, probably at this moment, goal is that every person really gets mentor in the times of when they feel that that kind of a relationship would help them to achieve their personal objectives. So that's probably the idea. And there is actually there are more evidence showing that if it's voluntarily, so if people choose each other, that it's much better than so that kind of, as you said, informal mentorship when you connect with people and help each other out. I think that that could be probably more successful than when somebody just get appointed to someone.
In addition to that, there is what we call peer-to-peer mentoring, and we leverage that in Nigeria with the women in medicine, and the women in medicine. And we also did that with the DEI, Carolina, remember? The women on council, we had peer-to-peer mentoring, we got together and we were able to mentor ourselves. And that is why this committee, the DEI committee, was born out of being peers on council and working together, mentoring ourselves. And reverse mentoring, don't forget that your students, your residents are probably more tech savvy. For me, I learned a lot from my medical students. They helped me set up Google Classroom and so many other things that they were able to do. Thank you.
Yeah, the point is not, as I mentioned, in seniority anymore. It's about what you offer as a support and as a skill, creating, let's say, inviting, let's say, strength in a person to solve their own ways into this more and more complex world.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Vojka and Bisola. Maybe we should move on.
Yes. Dr. Aouad, can it be considered that women are nowadays a fundamental pillar in the practice of anesthesiology?
Of course, I consider that they are fundamental pillars. I think that they are an important part of the workforce, and hopefully they will be also a much more important part of the leadership and academic positions in the future. I know that we have some improvement in this trend of low representation of female, but I'm really very hopeful that it will improve over time. But I'm definitely convinced that our value is really very important in this field. We have a lot of qualities that really make us wonderful anesthesiologists and wonderful academic anesthesiologists too. Maybe I'm biased, I don't know.
No, you're not.
So,
I agree.
if I may just add, I think, yes, of course, what can I say of supporting women anesthesiologists? It's obvious. But saying that we are becoming dominant or less dominant in anesthesia, there can be also a lot of traps, because sometimes it's because there are another, let's say, specialties that are more had with the higher incomes, that are more prominent, more visible. And those are sort of now more attracted to men. So somehow I think we should, first of all, let's say something for women and our leadership position, but also for our profession, not to accept that our profession is something like less attractive and less visible and less powerful and less valued than other more prominent. So I think that our job against bias is not only about women anesthesiologists, but anesthesiology as a specialty itself. So I think that is also maybe one thought that we could work more on.
Thank you.
I'd like to add on this that, like Marie said before about allies and bystanders, and talking about men should participate in pushing women towards leadership positions. And I think that also women should help each others, because sometimes women of power or not power, but having a leadership position should be talking about pushing women to better positions. So it should be also women that talk about women empowerment and allies, being allies to women.
If I may add, Patricia, I think it's intuitive to have this alliance among women and to have them kind of support each other and work together. But I think that it is also important to mention that we need to have our allies among men, because they play a major role in the support they provide, especially that they are often in also positions of leadership, and they can be very important advocates to the cause of women. And I don't think that it should be our only responsibility, but it should be theirs too, because this is something that will help move the whole momentum towards a better representation and a better equity in the workplace.
Indeed, it is a business for all. And to start closing, Dr. Vojka, you mentioned the WFSA mentoring program. Please tell us more about it.
Well, I think it was, I think it was established actually last year, and I think that it has also opportunities with the different languages, which is important, so that not people just not speaking English well enough are discouraged. And there is a process of applying for a mentorship relationship, and then there is a matching. And then after a matching of mentee and mentors, after the initial conversation and establishing a relationship, all that relationship may move forward. It can be for different needs, and there is application form, and I strongly encourage people to apply for both. I think for being mentees, but also to apply for become mentors, because good mentors are lacking. As we know, it's about skills and also intention and willingness to share knowledge and experience. So I think it is also important that all people that would like to support the program should apply for both roles, either mentors and mentees. And of course, if something is established, it cannot flourish without people. So people have to contribute. Yeah, so I strongly encourage people to be there.
Thank you very much. As closing remark, each of the panelists will say one word to our early career anesthesiologist.
Do I start?
Yes, one word.
Stickability. Stickability. Stick to it. Stickability.
Stickability. Not mentorship, but stickability. Good.
Stickability.
Vojka?
Resilience.
Resilience. Professor Aouad?
I would say go for it. We're very good at it.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. We want to invite you to the World Congress of Anesthesiology in Marrakesh. And you will meet there in person Dr. Voika, Dr. Mary, Dr. Bisola. So you can ask them and talk with them, chat with them a lot more about these topics. So we want to invite you to the World Congress of Anesthesiology in Marrakesh 2026 from the 15th to 19th of April. Do not miss it. It's a high scientific level meeting with plenaries, workshop, PBLDs, short courses summit. We wish to see you there. Okay, we want to thank the DEI, Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee, chaired by Professor Fawzia Khan from Pakistan, and Vice Chair Prince Lundgren from South Africa for setting this webinar. And also thanks to our Digital Learning Officer, Rosa Garriga from Spain for her valuable support. Hand over to you, Patricia.
Okay, I want to thank you very much for attending, and inspired by Yannick's life, which was full of joy and enthusiasm, even in the most difficult moments. We invite you to celebrate with joy the International Day of Women and Girls in Science. Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Valle. Thank you all.